My point is that in today's internet age, things that are short and concise and things that are certain and absolute, climate change is going to kill us all, or climate change is a hoax, those things get more views, more attention seconds, to use your language, than something that's, well, it could be this and it depends on this, and those nuanced
Right.
Assertions.
Well, so this is interesting. I think this is obviously that's something about the way the brain, the neurophysiology and psyche together are being conditioned by tech and culture and the economy together. And obviously, we're looking very specifically at things like the way that Facebook and platforms like that, trying to optimize time on site and engagement, identify the stickiest things, keep people from bouncing, and those happen to be the limbically hijacking things. So use literally personalized AI level technology to double down on the worst traits in humans at a multi-billion person kind of $1 trillion scale. But that's not our inexorable nature. That's our nature being conditioned for a specific purpose. But it is something we have to overcome and that we have to work with here. And I think this goes to the topic you were asking of like thinking about grand narratives just in general, being able to think about the whole well enough that we can think about solutions even to parts that don't mess up other things. The minimum required complexity of just reality is such that we do have to recondition ourselves to be able to seek instantaneous certainty and instantaneous solutions less, and be able to take the time to go deep enough in a thing that you really get the insights of what the many different causes are, not a singular cause, and what solutions.
Is that a skill like meditation, or how does someone develop that?
Yeah, I think, when we're talking about the social media thing, and obviously this is not only social media, there are different kinds of reward circuits. This is kind of also why it's interesting to think about it in terms of brain and evolutionary biology versus conditioning. There are kind of one marshmallow reward circuits, and there are two marshmallow reward circuits. and I'll assume people know the two marshmallow experiment. The one marshmallow reward circuits, when you have an economy that makes a lot of those available, which evolution didn't make a lot of one marshmallow reward circuits available. Typically, you had to actually perform evolutionarily relevant work to get rewards of various kinds. And one of the things that we've been able to do, and that specifically economics has incentivized, is being able to take the thing that there's a evolutionary reward attached to and strip it from the work that you would have to do to get it, to make something that sells better. That's what the supply side is. The supply side is incentivized to drive demand, right? And so we've talked about this before of like what fast food is to food. I didn't have to hunt or gather or whatever, and I just get a concentration of salt, fat, and sugar with maximum palatability, stripped of fiber and micronutrients. So it hits all of the dopaminergic, reward centers, but neither has nutrients in it, nor did it actually require any evolutionary activity of my body, right? And that's pretty much the same thing that porn is to actual sex, which involves intimacy and relationship and lots of things like that.
So we're getting the payoffs without the work in our culture.
Without the work and without the actual even deeper nutrients, right? Without the deeper fulfillers. So if I'm hungry and I crave McDonald's, there's this fascinating thing where people who die of diseases of obesity are actually also dying of certain types of micronutrient starvation. Because every time they eat more stuff and they get filled with calories and macronutrients, they're actually not getting trace minerals. They're not getting phytonutrients. And so then the hunger is even deeper. It's not a real satisfier, right? It's a pseudo satisfier. So not only are they not doing the work, they're also not getting the deeper thing that the salt, fat, sugar was evolutionarily bound to the other micronutrients that were needed. And the same thing in terms of people don't get a sense of deep intimacy and connection and the meaningfulness of life from porn that they would from an actual intimate relationship. And they don't get it from social media that they would from real friendships. And the real friendships mean I can't just be an asshole and then bail. I actually have to work through all the human conflict, which means I have to look at how I contributed to it, which means I have to become a better person, but it's hard.
Bringing it back to the original question, in ancestral times, we would have been sitting around a campfire hashing out the complex problem that we faced. And so our brain power wasn't a limiter there. But what's happening now is two things. Number one, the situation is unbelievably complex, and it can only be understood in a individual mind. You can't get a climate expert, an energy expert, an AI expert, and a psychologist in a room, and each of them opine on their part of the meta crisis and then assume that everyone understands everything. It has to be assembled in an individual mind, and then hopefully you'll grow the number of those minds. But first of all, it's complex, and second of all, we're being bombarded by the Facebook and other things competing for things that are not relevant to our future, that are not giving us a full, healthy experience, both calorically and mentally and otherwise.
There's actually something that you said about the must be processed in a single human mind that's important. I want to come back to, but just to make sense of the detour and why I was mentioning the thing about in food and online relationships and all those areas, there's like a hypernormal stimuli that is separated from the rest of what made it evolutionarily relevant is and that's kind of the one marshmallow reward circuit rather than the two marshmallow reward circuit that involves some self-application for some kind of delayed and healthier gratification is that obviously is also the case with the kind of reward circuits associated with sense making and understanding. The one marshmallow reward circuits are to get certainty very quickly without the work of actually trying to study and understand the situation. I just
so that certainty is a one marshmallow. That makes sense.
And so I know what in-group I'm a part of because we're all outraged at the terrible Trumpers or the dumb libtards or the whatever it is on the other side. I know what in-group I'm a part of, and I feel safe because there's lots of us, and we're really certain and we're really sanctimonious. And I get that feeling of like there's a false sense of identity and esteem and kind of the Maslow's needs sense, which is sanctimony, right? I get to feel esteem because I feel so obviously smarter than the dumb ones who think the other wrong thing. And I also get to feel the security that is associated with feeling certain, even though it's a false certainty. And so I would say those are the need for belonging and the need for security and the need for esteem are all getting hijacked, getting turned into political warfare in a way that is useful for political parties and people who want to sell their wares and whatever else it is. But those are all the one marshmallow reward circuits of like, wait, did I actually read all of the literature on climate change in depth or on vaccines or on whatever it is and really come to sense make this on my own? Or did I get a sense of certainty really prematurely and really kind of handed to me? So similarly, when you're saying like, what are the skills underneath it? I think the skill of like the quality of earnestness in our desire to understand the reality we live in. And the earnestness associated with just a pure desire for clear understanding, as well as a desire to be effective, and the recognition that if my map is wrong, I'm not going to navigate well, especially if I am falsely certain. And then the willingness to sit in uncertainty for a lot longer, the willingness to not be part of an in-group that is certain, the willingness to let go of the kind of moral righteous superiority and to sit in the uncertainty of that so that I can, without bias, actually come to make progressively better sense of the world. And then to still never get certain because there's always more stuff that I don't even know that I don't know that's going to continue to.
But isn't that a really high bar to reject certainty and sit with uncertainty and sit outside of your in-group? Isn't that a rare human that can do that?
Statistically rare in the current environment, yes. Requiring genetics everybody doesn't have, no.